And we're live. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. This is Wander to the Edge. My name is Adam Asher from the Edge of Adventure.
I'm Zanne from Where Gals Wander.
Zanne, great to see you. This is episode 50.
I
When you think about
know.
this a sec, have we done 50 of these?
Apparently we have. And it's 50 Wander to the Edge. That doesn't include the first two where we were just kind of like messing around. So it's
Didn't know
been,
what we were doing.
yeah,
Still,
not that we do now,
and we
but
still don't.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, yes, I remember it was early, not early, but I guess about this time, 2020, and the world was different and changing, and everybody was struggling with this inability to travel and go places. And I think that's where it started. We said, "Hey,
Yeah,
let's go live." What did we do? What was the first? We went live on Instagram, I think,
we did. Yep.
and then we slowly but surely perfected it. Not that we're at perfection or anything like that, but it's we're definitely into a routine. So anyway, thanks everybody for joining us. I see again, as this is a live broadcast, we see
I
people
know.
logging on. You can catch us live right now on Facebook and also on YouTube and on Twitter via Periscope. And then, of course, we'll be posting this after the fact. We'll be posting it to Instagram as well. So anyway, thanks everybody for joining us. I hear we have a real boring guest today.
The guest today is horrible. I'm not sure why you guys all turned in, but hello to Hannah and Gibby and Seema and Bunny and everyone. We are going to be talking to some guy named Adam Asher.
Yeah, and he's so excited about being on the show today that he put on his hat.
I saw that. You know that when the hat comes out,
Yeah,
it's going to be a good one. Yeah. Are you nervous to have me interview you? You should be.
No, worried is more of
Yeah,
the word.
you
It's
should
not.
be.
I'm not nervous.
Yeah.
Just really scared.
Yeah. I have pages and pages of questions here from everyone to ask.
Yeah. So we have people's questions, we have your questions,
Mhm.
and at the end of the show, we'll be left with only my question, which is why did we do this?
And we want people to ask questions now live as well too.
Indeed. Okay. Well, do you want to get this thing started? What do you think?
Yeah, let's do it. Welcome to Wander to the Edge. So
It's official. I'm in trouble.
yeah. So what's the deal, Adam? It was March. It was your birthday. We had talked about doing this. It was all set up. And then all of a sudden, you bail. Like, what happened to you? People want to know.
Yeah. So I had I won't say the opportunity, but also the commitment that my son and I had a video project with the orphanage in Mexico. If you guys have followed the Edge of Adventure, you may remember uh, back last year, prior to the shutdown and the pandemic, I went to Mexico and we were there at a Big Heart orphanage. And so, anyway, fast forward, my son and I had the opportunity and the need to go help them with a video project. And my son does a lot of video work, and he and I and a friend had already committed that we were going to be down there that weekend. I had just forgotten about the conflict. So I couldn't really change those plans. So I had to change these, but it was for a good cause. I was in Mexico and I was helping a great organization and some great people there.
And I want to talk more about Mexico in just a moment. But when you got back from Mexico, you also sort of just disappeared. And we had to do like a rerun, and we were moving stuff around. And what's the deal there?
Yeah, long story short, I got COVID, and I don't really blame Mexico for that. I have a feeling it was probably on one of the flights. Flying down, it's a couple of flights down to the border, and then a couple of flights back. I don't know. I don't know for sure. And everybody was being careful and all that, but still, when you travel stateside, certainly now there's a lot of people still on the plane. and my guess is that's probably where I picked it up. So I came down with COVID, and then the next 4 weeks after that were kind of a blur.
I mean, you didn't just catch COVID, you were pretty sick because I was talking to you during that, and it was scary.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely gave me an appreciation for it, the virus is very real, and you need to be careful. It's not the kind of thing you want, it's not the kind of thing you wanna give to somebody else, and, you know, I I never thought it was going to be really, really bad, but there were 2 or 3 days right there in the middle, as you recall, Zan, that I was not feeling well at all,
Yeah,
and I was very discouraged about, when I was gonna start to feel better. But fortunately, I got, some, treatment for COVID, and that began to sort of turn the tide a little bit, and
yeah,
anybody who comes down with it or a loved one comes down with it or something, my advice is get to a doctor, see a doctor, consult a doctor who will treat you, who will help you, who will get you something to help. While there's no magic pill,
yeah,
the sooner you begin inhibiting the virus, the better.
yeah. We are all so glad that you're okay.
Well,
So,
thank you. And you know what? It anytime, whether it's COVID or any illness that we have in life, I have come to truly believe that something good can come of it. I mean, it's not that you want to be sick, but if you use that time to kind of reflect, you can grow from it. And I think I did. It forced me to pause. It forced me to stop. That's why we had to run a
yeah,
couple of reruns. I ran a couple of reruns for The Edge of Adventure on my other podcast, and yeah, I mean, it forces you to rest, and then it also forces you to stop and be reminded about what's really important to you. What do you wanna do with the days you have on this planet? I mean, not to be morbid or whatever, but we all have a limited number of days on the planet,
yeah,
and that makes you think, "Okay, am I really using my time wisely, and what can I do to be more wise about it?" But anyway, thanks everybody.
yeah. So speaking of that, and to jump back to Mexico, so Mexico is kind of where it all started for you in terms of your life of adventure. Um, I want to talk about Mexico and how it began, and then I also want to talk about not just your love for the country, but for the language as well too. So go.
Okay, and if you see me, like, looking off to the side, it's
Yeah.
'cause, I'm running the controls here, and, you talk about, Mexico and where it all started. So, you asked for me to have this you sent me some of the pictures that you wanted me to, have
Yes.
handy. So, this is a picture of Mexico, right? So, that Mexico is where it all started for me, I guess. In a way, I suppose it all started with amateur radio, ham radio, which is what started my interest in radio as a medium, but then also I talked to people all around the world through my ham radio set, and that's really what gave me the desire to travel and learn
First, we just
languages.
have to point out this is you.
It is me.
Yes.
It is
So
me.
everybody just let that sink in for a moment.
Yeah, I had put the order in for the beard, but it just hadn't
Yeah.
come in yet. I was still waiting.
So you were doing ham radio, you wanted to talk with other people around the world. And where did that lead? Like what happened as you started doing that?
So, yes, the amateur radio, to put it, make it very try to make it as quickly as possible. I guess I was about 13, got my amateur radio license, built my antennas, and had my radio set up in my room, and began talking to people around the world, right? That's what you can do with amateur radio. And back then, before the internet, it was hard to do. Now it's very easy. I mean, look, we've got people joining us from around the world for this video broadcast,
Yeah.
but, I was fascinated back then from a very early age with the ability to communicate. I mean, communication was a thing that was kinda, fascinating to me, language, culture, and then when I had the opportunity, my first opportunity to travel internationally was to Mexico, and I began working with a humanitarian group down there, some Christian missionaries, and I was forever changed.
So the thing that I still can't get over when you and I first started talking about your life and your background is the very first trip that you made to Mexico, where you went to Mexico, you were 15, and all you had was a map and a English to Spanish dictionary, and you took off at 15 to just go to Mexico. I still can't wrap my head around that. Can you kind of share with us how that all happened?
So at 15, I did that pretty much, but it was with a group. So I went with a group at age 15. And then at age 16, not a huge difference, right? But at 16, I went down on my own and uh, hitched a ride, if you will, not in hitchhiking, but I rode down with a group and then stayed in Mexico and then found a way, to ride back. I think I rode back most of the way with another group that had gone down to do some work. But to get to your point, yes, I was pretty young and I've raised a son now. My son is now 23, 24, somewhere in there. And he I from the parents' perspective, I can't imagine doing that. But, my parents, I'm the oldest or the eldest of 5, and I think they always saw me as being, old and responsible and all those good things, and I'm sure it was tough for them to let me do that, but I'm glad they did. But, yeah, I was pretty much on my own, definitely was independent in Mexico at, 16 and probably 16, 17, 18. Took several trips to Mexico and went all over the country.
So, how did you learn the language? Because you taught yourself.
Correct. I did have some classes in high school, but as we all know, that can be very limiting, and I was not satisfied really with what I was learning from that per se, and so and I was intrigued by the amateur radio so that I could turn on my radio set and I could hear stations from around the world, and being here in the Americas, you hear a lot of Spanish, and I was intrigued. I wanted to know. Maybe it's because I'm nosy, and I wanted to know what they were saying, and it just, opened up this whole other world to me. So I paid for some private lessons, and then also practiced it on the amateur radio set, and just to give you an idea of just what a nerd I was, as a teenager, I was in my room talking to other teenagers and, folks around the world. I had a friend in, Caracas, Venezuela, who I never met personally. I never even saw a picture of him, but for probably the better part of a year, year and a half, we would, meet once a week on the radio, and we would speak. He'd speak English, I would correct his English, I would speak Spanish, he would correct my Spanish, and so it goes. That's where it started, but
Yeah.
then working in Mexico was where, when you're living in the culture and you're in the culture, immersed in it, that's when you begin to make, more progress.
So, do you still do ham radio today?
I don't, and I still have my license. You have to renew it periodically, and I'm very careful to do that. Don't wanna lose that because you have to pass written tests and so on and so forth to be able to get that, so and not let that lapse. I'm sure I would not be able to, pass the tests today, but I would venture to say, in a way, I sort of bring that to everything else that I do. I mean, the that part of me is still being realized through this, through the Edge of Adventure, through the podcast that I do there, through this is kind of, I guess, what I was always drawn to. It's kind of funny to think that at that same age, 14, right in there, I was talking to people all around the world, and if you know anybody, if you know much about ham radio, you'll have these. They call them nets, which basically means like you have certain, your people will join on a frequency at a particular time every week, and they just get together and they talk, right? And then I even, I was a kid and I wanted to be right in the middle of the action, so I would even become a net control, which is what they call it, which it basically means you're the person making sure everybody has a chance to to talk and kinda guiding it. So anyway,
Yeah.
just my crazy childhood.
And it's funny just how that took you to where you are today. And now you talk about the nets, and it kinda reminds me of Wander to the Edge, right? That's kinda what we do every week with our travel tribe. Um, your desire to learn more about the world, how did that lead you into launching the Edge of Adventure?
I'm throughout this entire conversation, Zan, I'm gonna do my best to just boil it down because I don't wanna
Yeah.
bore everybody and get but there's a lot to the story. But I would say through the years, I took a lot of trips to Mexico, some other countries as well. It was always something that I enjoyed. I loved the humanitarian aspect, the service aspect of helping people in need and knowing that as you're helping them, you're getting such a blessing out of it. And it's not because you're some hero. I mean, you'd be in the same boat. You'd be in the same boat if things were different. I mean, you were just we have many of us have the privileges we have, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, that's a good thing. It just are we using it to help other people and help them lift themselves up? And I was always drawn to that side of
Mhm.
things and love the traveling, love the culture, love the challenge of languages and things like that. And yet I've have made a career in radio, and the edge of adventure was me coming to the point where I say, "You know what do I wanna do? What do I know how to do? And where do those 2 things overlap?" And I think that's a question that we all have. Maybe not all of us, but many of us have,
Mhm.
and answering both of those questions can be tricky. What do I wanna do? What do I like to do? A lot of us have to kinda dig to even be honest about what that really is, and what do I know how to do? And is there a way to combine those? And in my case, I got the idea initially for the Edge of Adventure by simply saying, "What if I took this radio media person and knowledge that I am, and I applied it to what I love to do," which is travel. I mean, it is travel, but as you know, it's more than just the travel element.
I I want to share some of the media that you have with the Edge of Adventure. Maybe as we talk about it a little
Okay.
bit, um, because it is this idea of um, adventure with purpose. And I want you to share with us a little bit more about how you took that concept and really applied it, and how is Edge helping to make that impact?
I'm listening to you.
I know.
Alright, let's pull
Which
this
is
up here.
unusual. This is one of
I
the few
know, it
times that you
really is.
kinda have
But
to,
okay, so
so,
here we go.
yeah, I want you to, like, do all that, do your
Alright.
usual, like, producer thing, and be the interviewee,
Yes,
and
I'm
be the
getting
co-host. Yeah,
you know,
just yeah,
cue the
go.
footage.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so to me, the edge of adventure is my vision for it, and what I have sought to make it is entertainment that highlights and showcases servants. And in particular, those servants who are working in the developing world under very difficult circumstances, living very adventurous lives, but with purpose. And you guys know I always like those 2 words, adventure and purpose. And to create something that is entertaining, that people can join in the adventure and go on this adventure with me, and yet not let it I don't want it to stop with the travel part because as much as I love travel and as much as I love sharing the culture and the languages and things like that, it's also about service. And so my goal with the Edge of Adventure, what I have done so far and what I intend to do is to use it and to create something that is entertaining but something that has a purpose in and of itself. And it is to highlight the organizations around the world and the people who are serving others to, make the world a better place, make life better and easier for the people that they're working with. And that's that's what I love to do. And I love going on those trips and being a part of those type of projects, and so the Edge of Adventure is me bringing the camera along and telling the story.
So the footage that we're looking at now is from the first docuseries for Edge of Adventure in Nicaragua, where you traveled down to Nicaragua. And what city did you start in?
Well, we of course we flew into Managua, which is the capital
Mhm.
of Nicaragua, and then traveled over to Bluefields, and then up the coast to a very small town, which is literally the name of the town is Kansas City. Okay, and it seems weird. You're like, what? Do they speak English down there, and this sort of thing? But the answer to that is actually yes, they do. And the history of Nicaragua and Central America, anybody that knows that history knows that there was also a British um, presence, and while it was not as strong as the Spanish or the Portuguese presence throughout the Americas or Central and South America, there was a British presence in Central America, though again not as noticeable. So that history is still left over. So they still speak English, or we might call it Pidgin English or something like that. It's just it's different. It's not the
Yeah.
same. But so anyway, that's why the names are Bluefields and Kansas City. And yet the culture over there was also fascinating to see. The culture on that part of Central America is different because of its unique history, and that's just part of what I always like to share.
You know, it looks like a very high, well, I've said this to you before, like the quality of that production and how it appears, you would never guess that it's basically you and a very, very small crew. I think you had a crew of 2 that went with you that produced that entire, trip. And the trip was not just, "We're gonna land in an airport and then drive, over to this village." It was kind of a dangerous adventure in terms of driving through certain dangerous areas. There was a fear of being kidnapped, I believe, at one point. Just as being a threat, not you personally, but there was something that existed there. Um, and then taking a skiff up the river in a storm. I mean, there's a huge amount of dedication to do what you do in order to get that message out and to showcase these organizations and really show what the other side is dealing with, outside of our own sort of privileged world. Hannah asked, how do you reconcile the whole, she calls it a savior sort of complex, that undercut the projects that can make a real difference? And I just want to get your thoughts on that, Adam.
Well, I mean, that does that exist? Okay, sure. I think my responsibility is to make sure that I don't carry myself as someone who thinks that they're a savior, anybody's savior. I'm nobody's savior. And it's also important I seek to highlight the organizations and then that I like and that I think are um, walking that line or managing that question effectively, because it is absolute. I mean, we're not, nobody is the savior, right? I mean, I prefer to use the word servants. And if we can, if we as individuals, and this goes for everybody watching this, everybody that will see this, there are ways we can serve, and you don't have to go to Central America to do it, but you can serve other people. You can help other people. You can make a difference in somebody else's life. And I'm here to tell you, I could make you a long list of the people who have made differences in my life. And sometimes it was really big things that they did for me. And sometimes it was, yeah, I mean, you might think of it as a small thing, but it made a big difference. And to me, that's the attitude that we have to have, both as I put the show together. I try, I mean, I'm not a savior. I'm not a hero. I see myself, my role in this effort as being a leader.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be a celebrity. I'm not trying to be a hero. I'm not trying to be a savior. And I'm also not going there to say, look, these guys are the saviors. No, not at all. But if if you see the difference in, you go to a village that doesn't have clean water, and you see the difference between what their life is like with clean water and without clean water, right? You see that difference. That's something that's really hard to forget. It's
Yeah.
hard to, the light in their own spirit and eyes and countenance when they realize, okay, wait a minute, if I do some of these things, that'll make my life better. Oh, that'll make life better for my family. And guess what? They're smart people just like the rest of us. They just maybe haven't had the opportunity to learn and to be made aware of these things. So I think it's a great question, and I'm not interested in being a hero or looking at anybody as a hero. I see servants, and I see um, people who care about someone else more than they care about themselves, and I find that inspiring.
And I also just want to add, I mean, this is your true passion, even from that young age that we talked about from your first trip to Mexico. And I don't think that this is something that you feel you want to do, to your point, to be a celebrity. I think this is just something that you feel that you have to do as a human being. This is um, your personal way to make that difference in the world.
I hope so, and yet I'm keenly aware of the fact that whatever good I do is just, you know, a drop in the bucket. I mean, I mean, give me a break. The world is a big place. There's a lot
Yeah.
of need, and as I have, you know, gone through my life, and I've always felt this obligation and this responsibility to do something. I have found it freeing, Zan, that this is what I can do,
Yeah.
and I'm uniquely prepared for it. And so, if I don't do this, then I feel like I'm dropping the ball. I feel like I'm falling short, and nobody's making me do this. I don't have to do this, but I just feel that sense of responsibility that I have the idea, and I'm uniquely prepared to make this turn this into a thing, make this real, bring this into reality. And if I don't do it, then I feel like I'm falling short. And just to give you an example, and I was talking with a friend of mine earlier this week, just about how I'm like everybody else. I mean, I get tired, I get grumpy, I get hungry, I got too much going on. And then there are times where I think, okay, I got to try to pull myself together, do this interview, talk to somebody. Okay. And I want to do it, but I'm tired. I don't really feel like it right now. Right. I mean, it happens to all of us. And then when I get into that interview and I'm talking to these people, I'm realizing the sacrifices that they're making, and at times living in war zones, taking care of kids who know nothing but war. They don't know this life that I have. They're not spoiled like I am. And then I think, Adam, shame on you. Shame on you for even being grumpy about having to whatever it might be. And so when I say they inspire me, they do. They keep me going. My job, I think, is just to be that connector through the edge of adventure, is to hopefully connect their inspiration and help get it in front of people so that they can just have a taste of what's being done in the world out there today. In a day and age where there's bad news, and bad news. You turn the channel and there's bad news, and then bad news. But there's a lot of goodness, and there is actually a lot of good news.
I want to shift now, not that we're done talking about the edge of adventure, but I do want to shift and talk a little bit about Adam the man. And you are very iconic in terms of your appearance. You're not someone that people would forget easily, even from the littlest details. And just your sense of knowing who you are. So, from the bracelets, and yes. So, tell us a little bit, just a word or two about the bracelets.
So, if you look back at the other picture which we showed earlier, you would see that even then I was wearing these bracelets. And where did it start for me? It started in that marketplace in Mexico, and it just, I mean, of all the little knickknacks you can buy when you travel, and what are you gonna do
Yeah.
with it? For a few cents or a dollar or 2, you can pick up one of these bracelets, and I just kinda got in the habit of doing that, and I like to do that whenever I go, not that you always can, but if you have the opportunity and you can buy a bracelet, I mean, literally, it costs a buck or 2 or whatever. I mean, it's super inexpensive, and then, even as I look at the ones I'm wearing now, I think back to, "Okay, I got that one here. Oh, yeah, I got that one there. Oh, man, I forgot about that." And then
Yeah.
it's kinda helps keep the memories alive. But in terms of being iconic, the I guess 2 things I would say about that. I mean, first of all, as a guy that's been in media, and I have, through the years, I've helped people develop their own brand and come into their own and do their own radio show or their own podcast and become something. And my role was always behind the scenes. And I one part of the genesis of the Edge of Adventure was, why don't I start taking my own advice? And so I did
Yeah.
start kind of developing that, and I didn't necessarily know, the brand has grown over time. But the beard and the hair and whatever else, if you look back at pictures of me, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, whatever, well, 10 maybe, who knows, time's flying, but you look back at the early pictures of me, I mean, I was very clean cut, wore a suit and that whole deal,
Mhm.
and I was comfortable being that, and then this, through the Edge of Adventure and through some of the other things I lived in my life, I mean, I suffered some losses and some disillusionment, just like all of us do, and I kinda came through it with this style, and I know it's a good branding piece. Okay, I'm not stupid. I know that it is memorable, and it's kinda like, "What's going on with the hair? What's he doing?"
What's up
So
with the
I
beard?
do it on purpose.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie to you guys, but it is also uniquely me. I'm not pretending, and one of my commitments, just like I say, I'm not a celebrity, and I hope that in the days ahead, I have a a series, an adventure series that you see on the top of the line streaming networks and so on and so forth. Not going to mention any names, but I hope so. I hope so. But my goal is not to become a celebrity or to act like a celebrity, and I find that it even makes me mad to think about it. Um, but I have a job to do, and that job is to create this content and to help tell these stories. The stories out there, they're already there, just that they're just not in front of people. People don't know about it. And so my job is to help get those amazing stories in front of people. And a part of that is through the Edge of Adventure series, the video series, and then I've also done the podcast, which is along those same lines.
There's a lot of questions here about the beard. The beard definitely is a curiosity. So, in addition to the bracelets and the boots and the hat, and we've talked in the past, you and I think just through other conversations about what the hat represents when you put that on. That means that you're going for an adventure. The boots have their own stories, but the beard. Tell us about, did you grow the beard specifically for Edge of Adventure, or at what point did you make that decision to just have this be your new look?
It's a slippery, slippery slope. Some people would call it a slow fade, but I think the transformation in me, if you're going back probably 15 years or whatever, the transformation in me was, eh, I was clean cut. I was always kind. I was always, for the most part, I mean, I'm human, but, I mean, I tried to be kind, tried to do things the right way. And then, life happens. And some of the stuff that happens isn't pretty, and it isn't nice, and it's not nice to you. And it takes its toll on us as people, okay? And I'm say us because it happens to all of us. I mean, if we're blessed enough to get to live, then you're gonna live through some things. But I I began growing the 5 o'clock shadow and then a little bit longer beard and then a little bit longer and so on. But I started that as a result of, just a shift in my own thinking that I I had made a shift into something that was more rugged. I had made a shift. Adam had made a shift into something that was more durable. And I hope in the process that I have maintained my, um, soft heart because, I mean, I've always had that. I look back to my being a kid and like, wow, the world can be mean to a a soft-hearted kid or person in general, but I hope I've maintained that. But the more gruff exterior, it just comes with the fact that, um, kindness must be tough,
Yeah.
and it's sort of my, outward display of that, and, when I shot the series, I had a red beard, and now it's looking like it's mostly gray, but I'm just gonna live with it because what other choice do I have?
Yeah. You mentioned your family and being the oldest of 5, and just knowing you for the last 4 years, Adam, I know that you spend most of your time and your energy taking care of other people in whatever way possible that you can. And I think that your beard, in a way, represents having that piece of you that's only you and only for you, just being that symbol.
Yeah, I'm sure there's something in there. There's something to that, and you know me pretty well, and,
Yeah.
again, I think most of the people watching or that will watch will know that you and I have a friendship that goes back several years, 4 years now, I think,
Yeah.
and we really, um, our friendship started as you were launching Where Gals Wander and as I was launching The Edge of Adventure, and as social media will do, we got connected because, I liked the stuff that you were posting and thought it was pretty deep, and I think probably vice versa. But yeah, there's without a doubt, it my look is just little pieces of who I am, and
Yeah.
clearly the beard has something to say about being tough. Trust me, you don't have to have a beard to be tough. A lot of tough guys out there and tough women too without beards. It's okay. But in my case, it was just sort of that outward symbol of saying, "All right, I'm reinventing myself in a way." And you would
Yeah.
understand that if you saw like the picture of me, the old
Oh,
to
I
now.
have.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's a little scary and kind of disappointing actually, but yeah, it's definitely a part of that. And then I take little pieces of my own history and little pieces of the things that were influential on me, and it's all kind of been incorporated into this brand that exists now. And the best part about it is that it's me.
Yeah.
And I mean, I always would, as I tell people as they build their platforms and as they build their media presence, you're going to get a lot farther if you're being authentic than if you're being fake.
Right.
And we all know there's a lot of fakeness out there. And I just don't have a lot of time for that.
So, in terms of, um, one last question about the beard, would you ever shave it off?
I would never say never. I'm not
Yeah.
going to, I, when it's time, I'll do something different. And that's really all I can say. I don't know when it would be time. And so I don't know. I, I, I find it hard to imagine going back to clean shaven. That,
Yeah.
a shorter beard or closely cropped, maybe so at some point. And I'm not gonna say it would never happen, but I don't have it on my list of to-dos.
So, because you're modest, I know that you won't mention the fact that Edge has won awards. It won a Telly Award, that you've been featured in the Georgia Review of Hollywood. No, I'm not saying that correctly. How do you what would
Georgia Hollywood Review,
thank you.
but you're close. That's it. And, thank you. Look, there in any industry, there's the it feels good to be recognized, and for somebody or some people to say, "Hey, you're doing great work." That's quality stuff, and
Yeah.
that's really what happened with the Georgia Hollywood Review. And for those who don't know, I mean, obviously Hollywood is Hollywood, and it's out there closer to where you are in LA,
Yeah.
and and yet through the last few years, Atlanta and this area has become a sort of a secondary base for a lot of the Hollywood companies. They come over here, they do a lot of the shooting for these things, and so consequently, Atlanta has become a part of Atlanta is the Hollywood presence that's here, and the movies and the TV shows and things like that. So they have a publication, and they've sought to highlight the Edge of Adventure, which they did, and it was super, honored for that. And then I got the Silver Telly Award for the Edge of Adventure for online documentary series. And I mean, those I am proud and honored, and proud of the people who helped me get that done. And I would never take anything away from that. I will tell you, those accolades don't mean that much. What I want to me, and I mean, they feel good and I want them and I'll share them because, hey, it's awesome. Hey, but I want to make a difference. That's what I want to do with whatever time I got left. I don't know how long I got. Maybe I got 40 years, maybe I got 50, who knows? With all the progress in medicine, maybe I'll get, 60 or 70, who knows? But regardless, my time is limited and I just want to know that I did something, that I did what I could do. That I did what I could do. And what I can do is not what a lot of people can do more, do better things. But I just got to know that with what I was given, I did something.
So now to make sure that you stay modest, I'm going to go to a question from our audience here. And that is, what nicknames does Zan have for you?
Well, that sounds like that's a question for you, but the first nickname that I think actually it was your daughter Anya that coined the double A with a hat.
Yep.
And so that's the first one that comes through. So I don't even want to know. Yeah, every once in a while you use some nickname, and
Yeah.
yeah, I'm always like, oh, okay, great.
Yeah.
But I don't know. What's can you think of one?
I can think of one that I tend to say at you that makes you laugh, and it's probably not appropriate for the interview.
Okay, great. Well, then let's skip that one.
Yeah, and, the other one is, Chewbacca, because you had shared with me that story about Chewbacca. Um, and then, of course, Pappy Van Winkle from
Oh,
our
Pappy Van Winkle, yes.
interview with the Uncorked Librarian and Christine. So, yeah,
Right, and you guys were teasing me, but I was also right about the fact
yeah,
that Pappy Van Winkle is highly
you
sought
were.
after bourbon. And the Chewbacca reference is, yes, there was the time that, uh, I think it was at some sporting event here, and it was Star Wars night, and the stormtroopers called out to me and referred to me as Chewbacca, and so that was kinda cool. And then I forget if I told mentioned this one, but another Chewbacca story, also at a sporting events. It was actually at a Braves game here in Atlanta a few years back. They do the thing where they're trying to entertain you between the
Yeah.
innings, and it was a driver's license, and then they had me in the driver's license, and then they like subbed it out for Chewbacca or something. So, um, but listen, it's always flattering and important to not take yourself too seriously. And that is one of the things that is great about our friendship and my best friends. I mean, anybody that is a friend of mine, they don't take themselves too seriously and they don't take me too seriously. And it's just a part of, everybody's just people, and we're living life.
Yeah. Um, Indiana Jones. Is it true that you can recite lines from Indiana Jones on command?
Well, I mean, maybe not on the spot. I,
Anita
but
claims that you can.
for example, what truck? That one I like.
Yeah.
And then, what's the what another good one is it's not the years, it's the mileage.
Mhm.
But of course, look, I'm a fan of Indiana Jones, and that might, uh, make sense, right, with the things that I like to do,
Yeah.
and then I have my own spin on the hat. I'm like, I'm not wearing a fedora. It's not a fedora, and it's partly because I have a little bit of the old west, sort of have a romanticize the old west, and my mom's side of the family is here from Georgia and the South and Appalachia, things like that. My dad's side of the family is out from Oklahoma, so even the boots and the hat
Yeah.
are maybe a nod to that side of my heritage.
How about these questions? Can you play any instruments, and are you in a band?
The answer is I would answer no to both of those things. I grew up in a very musical family, and my mom, who has taught music my entire life, she still teaches. Masters in music ed, and this is her life. She teaches piano and violin, and she was an amazing vocalist in her day. And um, music is still a huge part of the family. As the oldest, I kind of rebelled against that a little bit and didn't find it being. I took it for granted and didn't think it was that awesome. And I went after the Spanish lessons and the traveling and those things that were what I wanted to do. Now, in the end, I wish I could say I could, but I don't. I took piano lessons as a kid, and I could probably still play the Blue Danube Waltz from memory, but that's neither here nor there. And but having said that, my brother is a songwriter and very uses that side of the family, the passion for music. And then my son is an amazing guitarist and has taken as well in the last couple of years to writing music. So the music side of my family is absolutely there. And I know Gibby had a question about the Spotify playlists,
Yeah, that's
and
kinda where I was going.
and
Yep.
that is my expression of music, because music does mean a lot to me. I just am not fortunate enough to be able to play an instrument, but the music is a big part of who I am and my family, I guess.
So, fun fact for everyone, Adam is also my own personal DJ. So, when I'm having a really, really bad day, I will text him and say, "Having a bad day." And then there's about a 2-minute pause, and then a playlist is sent to me to cheer me up. So, yeah.
And it is music speaks to me. I mean, I think it
Yeah.
does to everybody, but I mean, I rely on it and I need it. And so I sort of that's why I have created those Spotify playlists and have sought to share them. Is I like to group them into a certain where the playlist is saying something, and you may not know what the playlist is going to tell you until you listen to it. When you listen to it, you say, "Okay," and while that's not my creativity, I mean, other people have written and performed those. I'm sort of piecing it together. And by the way, I was a DJ, and that's as a my first radio job was as a DJ. I paid my way through school spinning the records, and it was back in a day when they were still records. I mean, we had CDs, we did, but most of these stations had legit turntables.
So, I think one thing that's just gonna be shocking to everybody watching this interview today is just realizing how old you really are.
I'm I'm 48, 48,
Yep.
and I don't feel a day over 47.
Yep. You're a baby compared to me.
It
You're
is
you're always gonna have that on me.
well, oh, yes, well, I
Yeah,
it we you think when you're a kid, 30 and 40 and 50. I mean, these were so old. These were so old.
yeah.
And only through getting there yourself do you realize, no, I mean, it's not. I'm the same person, and in one sense, we are at age 50, we're the same person. But hopefully, when we're in that 50 range, hopefully we've answered some of the questions for ourselves and about ourselves that set us free. Because I think a lot of times in your 20s, for a lot of people, it goes on longer, much longer than that. Those questions about who we are, what do I need to be, who do I answer to, who do I need to please, these kinds of things, and then those can kind of thwart your own progress. And by the time you get to this point, it's freeing because I think mostly hopefully you know who you are by this point.
Speaking of knowing who you are, can you sum up who you are in 2 words?
Adam Asher.
I was thinking more fire and poetry.
Ah, well, then you need to tell people why, because that term literally came from you.
It did.
The or and but I also use it. I use it kind of as a guide even now, for me, for who I am. And anyway, I'll answer it, Zan. You set me up. I'll answer it. So Zan has, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but you've pointed out in the years that you've known me that there's really, you have said that there's two sides to you, Adam. I mean, there's fire and there's poetry. And the fire is the do stuff, get stuff done, make things happen, make progress, get stuff off the list. And that's very much a piece of who I am. And then the poetry side is really code for the creative side. And I am telling a story through the Edge of Adventure. I am telling a story through the podcasts. I am trying to tell a story through social media or anything else that I do. And if I only focus on getting things done, that fire tends to burn out. And I sort of have, you've pointed out to me that I need the poetry side, the creative side. I have to be living in that and exercising that, or I'm out of balance. How'd I do? Is that about
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that passion that we talked about in the beginning, this passion for edge and wanting to make a difference and to drive things forward, um, you do tend to do it to the point where I think you start to feel a little depleted because of the passion that you have, um, and to help support that balance, it's going back to the creativity and getting back in touch with the feelings for why you're doing what you do and who you are and remembering everything that you have gone through to get to this point and reflecting back on that. And so that storytelling is the balance between the two. It's the passion and the drive, but yet the way that you've integrated that into who you are as a person and share that with others.
Well, in your observation of that and admonition and reminder to not abandon either side, that's been valuable to me in
Yeah.
recent years. It really has. Now, we're going to pause a second here and just make sure. Are
Yes.
we still on Facebook? I'm asking that question because my software is telling me that we've lost connection to
Oh,
Facebook. And so if you're on Facebook right now and you're watching this, then
we
let
need a
me
comment.
know.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I think we're still live on the other two platforms, and so I don't know if we've lost those. So actually, listen, talk amongst yourselves. I'm going to do what the software is telling me to do, and see if I can reestablish this. Okay, but if we disappear, we'll be right back. Oh, so it's still. Am I still talking here?
You are still talking.
Okay, now it says your destination was reconnected. All right, looks like we're back on. I don't know.
Okay.
The video came up, but no volumes. I clicked it. Okay, that's what Molly says. Um, okay, so now we're just trying to make sure. Are we back on Facebook? Are we back on Facebook? Because
It
okay,
looks like it. Yeah.
yes, people are telling me that we are. Okay. Um, we
What is
never. Hannah
something
says we never left. Okay. You know
okay.
what? I didn't feel like we left. I felt like we were here. So anyway, I'm
I
sorry about
feel like
that.
this
But
is just us having our usual conversation.
Technology, I mean, it's a little disconcerting when it tells you that,
Yeah.
everything that you're trying to do is no longer happening, but, anyway, good. Seema says we're never gone. So I'll kick it back to Zan for the
Yeah.
next question.
Um, do you ever get tired of answering the question, "Hey, you're that R. Scott Jones guy"?
No.
No.
I never do because they always treat him better than they treat me, so
That's a great answer. And then what is something about you that people would be very surprised to learn?
I'm fluent in Morse code.
Okay. I don't even know what to do with that. How many languages do you speak, by the way?
So counting English, 1, I'm kidding. I'm fluent in Spanish and getting along pretty good in Portuguese. I still have a I'm not my Portuguese is a long way from perfect, but I can definitely communicate just fine. It's also very similar to Spanish, so you get a lot of help out of that, and it'll also confuse you because they're super similar and also different. And then I did okay in French, but I never had the opportunity to live in France or in a French-speaking community or culture. So at some point in the future, I would like that because I think if I had a year in a location, I'd be able to brush up on that. So, you know, I can claim being fluent in English and Spanish. I do that all day long and pretty proud of Portuguese right now. And just I can read French, but I to speak it, I have to still process too much. Anybody that's learned a language knows you got to get past that to
Yeah.
really speak it. But I mean, uh,
Hannah wants you to speak French to her,
no,
but
no, I'm not doing that. That's what I say.
yeah,
That's why because I
yeah.
don't. I like I say I claim the things I can do, and then when I'm not going to claim the French, but soon, soon,
So,
soon.
Adam, in our last few minutes here, is there anything that you can show us in terms of projects that you have coming up next, or do we save that for a whole other topic?
Well, I'm going to say regarding the time. I know you're
Yeah,
watching the clock, and since we're talking about me, there's no rush.
yeah.
I'm kidding,
It's
but
your favorite thing to
don't.
talk
I
about.
would just don't feel like. I know for Instagram we try to cut it off right at 6. I mean at 60 minutes, and I'll fix that in editing. So just
Mhm.
feel free to wrap it up however you want to. And what was the question? The
So, do we come back next Saturday and just dive a little bit deeper into, like, part 2 of Adam?
I mean, I think I don't know they want to hear that much about me.
If you guys wanna hear more about Adam, can you let us know?
because yeah, I do have some plans. You want me to talk about them real quick?
Sure.
Okay. So we'll take it in real quick in phases. If you haven't seen the video series, it's a 7-part web series, and it was shot such that the each episode is about 7 minutes, something like that, and if you haven't seen that, I'd love to invite you to go to theedgeofadventure.com to check that out, and the one
They
of
are
the
saying that they want the part 2, I'm just letting you know, so if we
okay.
wanna do it justice.
Alright, I'm happy to do a part 2.
Alright.
You know what? If this is what the if she still wanna hear a funny story next time, Kathy. Um,
I have those too, trust me.
okay. So, you're in charge of this interview.
Mhm.
If,
I'm
how
pretty
do you
much
wanna
in charge
wrap
of
it? We'll
everything,
wrap this and we'll call it the end of part 1,
yeah,
and then we'll bore everybody again next week,
yeah.
and, we can, at that point, go into the future. I've got some cool projects I've been working on, and, yeah, love to
And
tell you about those.
I have some cool stories that I can share too.
Well, with that, as we wrap up, let me just say that you guys, the ones that are in this network of our friends, I mean, and you've been so kind to me and to Zan, and I mean, I'm not trying to get mushy here, but, I love you guys, and you are a special group of people, and you put up with me, and it's easy to put up with Zan when she's a delight. But seriously, I just want to thank you guys for being a part of this today, and for all you do to be so supportive of the Edge of Adventure and what I'm trying to do there. I don't take it for granted, and you're a part of this, and I just want to thank you.
Ditto. All right, so I guess we're gonna see everybody right back here next week. So get your questions ready. Feel free to send those over to me, and we will continue on to
I
learn more.
will literally be sitting right here until next week at this same time on Wander to the Edge. Thanks, everybody. See you then.